You've met them before. The person who feels wrong, not dangerous, not rude, just off. And you can't explain why, but something inside you whispers, don't trust this. You're not paranoid. You're not overthinking it. You're seeing something most people miss. And Alan Watts knew exactly what it was because Watts understood something. Most people spend their entire lives denying that we're not living as ourselves. We're living as characters, roles we've invented to survive, the judgment of others, the socially acceptable version, the one that gets approval, the one that doesn't get rejected. We walk into rooms wearing masks we don't even know we're wearing anymore. We rehearse our responses. We curate our reactions. We perform kindness when it benefits us and withdraw it when no one's watching. The world becomes a stage and everyone's reading from a script they didn't write but somehow memorized perfectly. And here's the thing, you do it too. I do it too. We all do. But some people, they've perfected the performance so completely that the mask has fused to their face. You can't tell where the act ends and the person begins, and that's when your intuition kicks in. That uneasy feeling, that quiet alarm that says something's off. You're sensing the gap, the distance between who they're pretending to be and who they actually are. So, how do you see past the mask? How do you know who someone really is when they've spent years building a fortress around their true character? According to Alan Watts, there are two things, just two, that slip past the armor. Two moments when the real person reveals itself, no matter how carefully they've constructed their image. And once you know what to look for, you'll never unsee it. The first one is simple, deceptively simple. Watch how someone treats the people who can't give them anything. Not their boss, not their romantic interest, not the person they're trying to impress at the dinner party. Watch how they speak to the waiter, the janitor, the customer service rep on the phone, the elderly person struggling with their groceries, the child asking a question. Because here's what Watts knew. Kindness isn't kindness if it's strategic. If it only appears when there's something to gain, when there's an audience to impress, when there's a reputation to protect, then it's not kindness, it's negotiation. True character reveals itself in the invisible moments. The interactions that don't add value to your image, the encounters that don't benefit your status, the people society has taught us don't matter. When someone is gentle with those who hold no power over them, when they extend patience to those who can offer nothing in return, when they speak with respect to someone the world has deemed less than, that's when you're seeing the real person, not the performance, not the curated self, the actual human underneath. Because the ego, the constructed self, only operates when there's a reward, when there's approval to be earned, validation to be secured, an image to maintain. But when none of that is on the table, when there's no prize for being kind, that's when the mask slips. That's when you see whether compassion is a costume or a core. I once watched someone transform mid-sentence. We were at a restaurant, deep in conversation, smiling, engaged, present. Then the server approached to refill water. The person I was with didn't even glance up, didn't pause their story, didn't acknowledge another human being standing 2 feet away. It lasted 3 seconds. But in those 3 seconds, I saw everything I needed to see. The kindness they'd been showing me wasn't kindness, it was performance. And the moment someone without value entered the scene, the performance paused. Watt said it plainly, if you cannot be kind to those who cannot repay you, you've missed the entire point of being human. So that's the first test, the one most people fail without even realizing they're being tested. But there's a second one, and it cuts even deeper. Watch how someone reacts when their mask is threatened, when they're criticized, when they're wrong, when they're contradicted, when their carefully constructed image is challenged or their flaws are exposed. Because the ego, the false self, will do anything to avoid being seen as less than perfect. It will lie, it will deflect, it will attack, it will rewrite history, it will play the victim. It will burn bridges just to avoid admitting a crack in the armor. Watts understood this intimately. He spoke often about the ego's greatest fear being revealed as an illusion. So when someone points out your mistake, when reality contradicts the story you've been telling yourself, when you're caught in hypocrisy or inconsistency, That's the moment of truth. Some people explode, attack first, rewrite the story, burn the bridge. Some people collapse, play victim, shift blame, reframe reality. Some people freeze, silent treatment, cold withdrawal, punishment disguised as peace. And some people breathe, admit, let go. That last group, that's who you can trust. Not because they're perfect, but because they're real. The others are still playing the game, still protecting the character, still terrified that if the illusion breaks, there'll be nothing left underneath. But here's the thing, and this is where Watts pulls the rug out from under all of us. The mask doesn't just fall when it's attacked. It falls in the micro reactions, the tone shift, the flash of contempt, the tightness in the jaw, the sudden coldness in the eyes. You don't need a full confrontation to see someone's character. You just need to watch what happens in the split second before they remember to perform again. That flicker, that's the truth. But here's what most people don't realize. And this is where it gets dangerous. Once you start seeing these patterns in others, you can't stop seeing them in yourself. And that's when the real test begins. So why do these two tests work so well? Why do they reveal more than years of polite conversation, more than resumes and references, and carefully managed social media profiles? Because they target the one thing the ego can't fully control. What happens when it's not being fed? The ego isn't a villain, it's a ghost. A story you've been telling for so long it feels like truth. A character you've been playing for so long you forgot you were acting. And it needs one thing to survive: belief. Your belief, their belief, anyone's belief that the mask is real. So when someone has no power to validate you, the ego sees no reason to engage. The performance stops because there's no audience worth performing for. And when someone threatens that narrative, when they point out the gap between who you claim to be and who you actually are, the ghost panics, because if no one believes in it, it disappears. Watts called the ego a chronic sense of inadequacy disguised as superiority. And he was right. Every lie, every manipulation, every defensive reaction is just the ego trying to protect itself from the unbearable truth that it doesn't exist. The person you think you are, the story you've been telling, is a construction, a fiction, a role you've been playing for so long you forgot you were acting. And the people who react with hostility when that fiction is challenged, they know it too, deep down. That's why they fight so hard. Because if the mask comes off and there's nothing underneath, what then? But here's where this stops being about them and starts being about you. Because the test isn't just for observing others. It's a mirror. How do you treat the person who can't give you anything? How do you react when someone points out your flaw, your mistake, your hypocrisy? Do you deflect? Do you attack? Do you withdraw? Or do you sit with the discomfort and let yourself be seen? Watts didn't teach observation as a weapon. He taught it as a path to self-awareness. The more clearly you see the masks others wear, the more clearly you see your own. And that's where the real work begins. Not in judging them, not in feeling superior because you figured them out, but in recognizing the same patterns in yourself, the same fear, the same desperation to be seen as good, as right, as enough. Ask yourself, when was the last time you snapped at someone who couldn't fight back? When was the last time you justified a mistake instead of owning it? When was the last time you treated someone differently because they had nothing to offer you? The answers won't feel good, but they're necessary because awareness is the only thing that loosens the ego's grip. You can't fight it. You can't shame it away. You can only see it, watch it operate, notice when it takes control. And in that noticing, something shifts. The performance loses its power. The mask becomes lighter. You start to sense the difference between who you've been pretending to be and who you actually are. Beneath all the noise, what's said it best? When you let go of who you think you should be, you become who you are. Not the polished version, not the curated self, the messy, inconsistent, beautifully flawed human being who doesn't need to perform to exist. So, here's the pattern, clear as day. Someone's true character lives in two places: how they treat invisibility, how they handle exposure. Everything else is theater. Now here's what you do with that. Two things reveal true character: how someone treats those who can't give them anything and how they react when their mask is threatened. Watch for those moments in others, yes, but more importantly in yourself. Because the goal isn't to win the game. It isn't to perfect your performance or spot everyone else's flaws. The goal is to stop playing altogether, to see clearly, to live honestly, to let the mask fall and discover that what's underneath is enough. It always was. And when you do that, when you stop pretending and start being, you'll find something strange happens. The people still wearing masks become easy to spot, not because you're judging them, but because you're no longer playing the same game. You see them and you see yourself, and for the first time, maybe ever, you're free. So I'll ask you this, which of the two reveals you the most? How you treat those who can't give you anything, or how you react when your mask cracks? Leave a comment, not for me, for yourself, because the moment you name it, you start to change it.